Perhaps more cheer and less barb, but it's certainly something to emulate towards. But Douglas also was prepared to do all the unglamorous work. He once rather accurately described his many managerial roles in the party and parliament as cleaning out the lavatories. Yet it was the extraordinary result of the 2024 election which enabled the still in place GNU, it is still in place, John, yes, still going, to be formed with Gibson's party in the cabinet. And as he had done for every election for nearly 50 years, Douglas Gibson was still in the mix. He had by then long left Parliament, serving afterwards as a distinguished ambassador to Thailand, and even after that busying himself in many works of mercy, as he described them, for the DA cause. As a mentor, as George mentioned, to other leaders, he was indispensable and always offered wise counsel. His lively commentary in the newspapers, his Twitter war with Herman Mashaba, among others, was a reminder of the truth of the words of the famed British parliamentarian Tony Benn, who, when he retired after 50 years as an MP in the House of Commons, announced, "I have retired from Parliament to devote more time to politics." Thus, very late on the evening of May 29, 2024, election day, just a year ago, I was sitting in the comfort of my lounge at home. See what a good party man I was at home, nursing a drink. Then the 81-year-old Gibson called me from the voting station in Bryanston, where he was a party agent. I asked him what he was observing. "It's looking quite good," he said, "but I've been here for 14 hours and it's absolutely freezing. Pam says I must be completely mad." It is such madness which builds parties, serves causes, and shapes democracies. Douglas Gibson was one of the great builders of our politics. As President Ramaphosa noted, he will be well remembered. Go well, our dear, distinguished, and noble friend. You have served our country so well.
Thank you very much, Tony. I now call on Ms. Sandra Botha to please deliver her tribute.
Good morning, dear old friends, okay? Old colleagues, also the young ones, but all who cared about Douglas. It is both an honor and a sadness to meet with you here to say a last goodbye to a unique character who left an indelible imprint on countless lives. I knew Douglas only as a colleague and my boss, but I wish to express my sincere sympathy also to his friends and family who suffered a deep personal loss. I did know something about him outside of politics. I followed him on Twitter. Nie altyd nie, maar wel op naweke. Ek het sy rugby kommentaar gevolg. Totdat ek van Twitter verban is, het ek dit ongelukkig verloor. Later jare het ek sy geskrewe bydraes in die pers gelees. Die laaste was Who Killed Cock Robin, wat jy nog op sosiale media kan vind. Steeds die moeite werd. Logisch, beredeneerd, to the point and creative. But of course, that is no more than we were used to. To be the quality of chief whip, which Douglas was for more than 15 years, demanded exceptional skills, no lesser than that of his co-pilot. In fact, that he was so exceptionally capable of working with Tony was a skill only shared with the wonderful Sandy Slack, Secretary Ordinaire. And vice versa. We in the caucus during those years had the rare privilege of being in the hands of two exceptional men. The DP, the DA, could not have wished for better, not that we didn't wish for easier. I don't know if Douglas became easier in his years as ambassador. He certainly had the natural charm to have all of Thailand eating out of his hand. The same charm he used to political benefit with the women members of the ANC, notably Madam Nkosazana Zuma. Us women in the DA caucus were not necessarily treated with the same indulgence. Dean Smuts and I were outraged that he could indulge Ryan Coetzee's view on a certain bill. Sorry, Ryan, but that is how we viewed it, and blithely ignore our superior female insights. He told me that he had to protect the young member against us. Would you believe it? I still consider this a real miscarriage of justice. He was such an authentic personality, an original, cunning, ruthless, and compassionate at the same time. Super bright, steadfast, and liberal. He cherished democracy and the rule of law. An excellent manager of caucus, strategist, and timekeeper. Only once, deeply appreciated by me, he admitted in caucus that I had been right in a minor timekeeping issue in the National Assembly. He didn't admit that he, of course, had been wrong. He was rarely wrong, admittedly, and could rely on his legal training, which he also put to valuable use in terms of legal forums involving the party. He loved it if a member could produce a stinging statement on crime when there was no news. He himself could produce statements at an alarming rate. Members I spoke to all recognized him foremostly as a gentleman and a very generous mentor whose door was always open. He tutored and he led, was keen to engage, and all times there to cover where his leader needed. Not that that was easy. If you wish to measure Douglas at his true worth, you just needed to see the relationship between him and Tony at work. They were equals taking on quite different responsibilities. It was not a competition. It was a relationship built on mutual deep understanding of what was needed. Om die wa deur die drift te trek. No? What is that? To pull the wagon through, what's a drift in Engels? A drift, whatever. Terloop, sy Afrikaans was baie goed vir 'n Joburg laaitie. Ek weet nie waar hy ek het nie geweet waar hy dit geleer nie, maar ek hoor nou al die Afrikaanse plekke waar hy vandaan gekom het en ja, Pretoria Universiteit. Whatever. I was no favorite of Douglas, but I admired him as we all did. He worked, if not his fingers, then his hair to the bone for the party and us members. He never stopped. Just listen to his TV interviews a few days before he passed away. Recently, still, Anshan and I schemed how to get him not to undertake a huge, tiring job for the candidate selection procedures. He didn't want to give up, despite heartbreaking family and personal health issues. The DA was his all. He was a DA man to his core. He was a beacon, but not only for us, for politics in South Africa, for the future of our country. He was a beacon. He held to that steep and narrow road which was always led in the right direction, with unshakable conviction and unfailing optimism, the true road to follow. His vision remained ever aanhouer wen, en om Jan Brandt se woorde by te voeg, as elkeen sy plig doen. How very lucky we were to have shared most of our political lives with you, Douglas. From the early days when we read in the dusty Free State, which still had 2 newspapers at the time, about the brave Johannesburg councillors standing up for what we also believed in to this day. Douglas, we bow our heads in acknowledgement of your insight, sacrifice, and perseverance. And I thank you on behalf of all of us who could never reach the stars as you did, for convincing us that victory is always within reach. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Botha. I now call on former Deputy Minister John Jeffrey to deliver the address on behalf of the ANC.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance. You're not I lose touch with it's not Chief Whip of the opposition anymore, that's somebody else. Good morning, everybody, and particularly to the Gibson family. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity and thankful to the ANC for asking me to speak on their behalf, but to speak in this memorial for Douglas. I first met Douglas Gibson when I was first elected to the National Assembly in the 1999 elections. I'd heard about him quite a bit before, but never had the pleasure of interacting with him. I'd previously been a member of the KwaZulu-Natal legislature for the first 5 years of democracy. The then Democratic Party had overtaken the New National Party as the largest opposition party in Parliament, and Douglas had just been appointed as the chief whip of the opposition. I was appointed as parliamentary councillor to the then Deputy President Jacob Zuma, and in that capacity had considerable interaction in parliamentary structures with him, such as the Chief Whips Forum, the Rules Committee, and the Programming Committee of the National Assembly and Parliament. He smiled a lot and was always courteous. But then it was a different generation. Tony, I'm not sure if I agree with my comrade Andri Snell about whether we can ever go back there, and I think it's a generational issue, but it was a different era. He was the quintessential gentleman. He was never outrightly rude. He didn't raise his voice. He was always polite. It was wonderful to have him as opposition chief whip because he was hardworking and reliable and didn't play games. If he said the Democratic Party or the DA would do something, you knew they would. Something good or something bad, but they would do it. You didn't get surprised. He was also primarily committed to South Africa and the impact of his actions on the bigger picture rather than narrow, immediate party gains. He was also a very eloquent speaker and would often stand up at his seat to raise some or other point of order. I then have a little story about the quip that Tony unfortunately has already used of the English teapot. I remember it not as Kader, but as another ANC speaker, an Afrikaans speaker. I mean, maybe it happened twice. Either of us might have missed the first one, but an Afrikaans speaker describing him in Afrikaans as an Engelse teapot. And that was referring to the way Douglas would speak, with one hand on his hip as the teapot handle, and then he would be gesticulating to make his point. I once, in a parliamentary debate, and in the cut and thrust of parliamentary insults, when I wanted to say he was being stupid or about some or other issue, I asked whether the operation to remove the melanoma on his forehead had also removed some of his brains. Thinking about it, okay, I hear some gasps. Thinking about it later, I thought I might have gone a bit too far with that comment. So I approached Douglas and asked him if he'd taken offense. He told me that while a few members of his caucus had told him they were not happy with the comment, he was fine with it and in fact found it mildly amusing. Douglas played an important role in building our democratic parliamentary democracy, and he greatly enriched the functioning of Parliament in the early years of democracy. On behalf of the African National Congress, I wish to express our condolences to his family, friends, colleagues, and the Democratic Alliance. He ran a great race, and we will miss him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. As I've mentioned earlier on behalf of the Gibson family, we have Douglas's daughter-in-law, Taryn, as well as Kira and Tom, who are sitting here in the front row. Taryn, I'm now going to hand over to you to deliver the message on behalf of the family. Thank you very much.
So in true Douglas Harvey Munro Gibson style, I stand here today to give my fourth eulogy to the most wonderful father, grandfather, husband, friend, brother, colleague, and mentor to so many. What a special person, interesting and interested, committed, dedicated, caring and kind and faithful. It is a privilege to stand here today in Parliament to say a few words to Doug's special friends and colleagues here, Thank you to each and every one of you for the role you played in this special part of his life's journey, not only for your collective commitment and drive to fight for what we believe is right for our beautiful country and a bright future for all, but for your friendship and camaraderie. So many lifelong wonderful friends made along the way. Numerous intellectual discussions, debates, debacles, daring opinions, successes, unwavering positivity and hope, always with a dash of humor. Doug was a proud old boy of Potch Boys, and although perhaps not always excelling on the sports field as much as he did with his academics, writing, and cultural activities, he was part of every single sports team and commended for always giving his all. His steadfast drive, positivity, and zest for life saw him becoming an accomplished attorney, politician, and diplomat in due course, and he has also been heard to say numerous times how lucky he was when the gorgeous Pamela Donald said yes to his marriage proposal over 54 years ago. Doug was intelligent, knowledgeable, optimistic, hopeful, funny, quirky, hardworking, and spirited right until the end, still living a purposeful life, still helping people in all sorts of different ways, always in service to others, still showing up to every single sports match and being so proud of his precious grandchildren, Kira and Thomas, who he loved enormously. Listening to every story, giving advice when asked, mentoring, helping. To us, the most wonderful father and grandfather who we absolutely adored and cannot imagine our lives without him. Perhaps the only consolation is that he is reunited with his beloved son, Don, who was the apple of his and Pam's eyes, and a true testament to his wonderful, loving, proud, and deeply committed parents. While heartbreaking to know Doug is no longer here in body, his spirit certainly lives on. It has been said a few times that a great baobab tree has fallen, wise and sage, but with numerous saplings planted and mentored along the way, who will continue to grow and thrive. And I know that he would be telling us to push on, to see the potential in people, help grow them, be kind, loving, and unafraid to fight for what you believe in. Say what you need to say, be the best version of yourself, and live a life of significance. Also just a very good friend of Doug's, Honorary Colonel Dr. Kramer, wanted me to just read a few words. He really wished he could be here today, so he just asked me to read this on behalf of him. Today, everyone here gathers to honor the life of my dear friend, Douglas Gibson. I first met Douglas around 2009 when he served as ambassador to Thailand and neighboring countries. Over the years, our friendship grew resilient and rock solid. Douglas was more than a diplomat and conservationist. He was a man of incredible humor, resilience, and boundless love for his family. He was an incredible family man who always spoke about them with such love and affection, and his devotion was truly inspiring. No matter how trying or difficult times were, often with his health, he kept his chin up, maintained his cool, and never lost his sense of humor. I remember even the day before he passed away, he sent him a message from the Morningside Clinic saying that he's now on a drip. Cellulitis had the cheek to worsen and then start on the other leg. I hope the intravenous antibiotics will now work. His humor shone brightest during life's toughest moments, always making light of the situation with the witty remark. One of the words Douglas used tirelessly every time he spoke or I called him was, "I'm full of beans." It was his lively way of expressing his energy and zest for life, no matter the circumstances. He was loyal and most trusted friend, possessing the highest integrity. It was an honor to be considered Douglas's friend, and South Africa has truly lost one of its very best. As a shining example of a mensch, a person of integrity and honor, his character was unmatched. He was the ultimate gentleman and a true South African patriot. A man of this caliber is very difficult to find. He was, to me, one in a billion. I feel immensely blessed, thankful, and honored to have had this iconic man in my life. He enjoyed his special muti, called whiskey, which I often brought when he visited. We shared wonderful conversations, and I learned so much about respecting and dealing with people, simply by observing how the residents at his retirement village adored and respected him. Beyond his humor and wisdom, Douglas was passionately dedicated to conservation, contributing his expertise to the Guardian Angel Wildlife and Marine Trust. His unwavering commitment to protecting South Africa's wildlife and environment was truly inspiring. I deeply regret that I could not be here today due to circumstances beyond my control, but my thoughts and hearts are with you all. My deepest condolences go to his wonderful wife, Pam, Taryn, and his grandchildren, and the entire Gibson family. You can be exceptionally proud of this remarkable, legendary man, Ambassador Douglas Gibson. Rest in peace, my friend. Your light and spirit will never fade. Colonel Raymond Kramer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Taryn. A week ago, the National Assembly adopted a motion paying tribute to Douglas, and it was adopted unanimously. Taryn, if I can ask you to please just deliver this to Mrs. Gibson, along with a letter from the Speaker as well, accompanying our love and condolences and greatest thanks to her. It's not easy being married to a politician, as I see every now and then, and we cannot thank you and her and the entire family enough for sharing him with us, and we hope that this will also convey the respect and gratitude of the entire National Assembly to her and to all of you as well. And then I finally call on the federal leader, John Steenhuisen, to deliver his eulogy. Thank you, John.
Colleagues, friends, honored guests, particularly those from other political parties, and most importantly, of course, the Gibson family. It is a huge honor for me to be able to stand at this podium today to pay tribute to Douglas Gibson. A mighty tree has fallen. Douglas set the benchmark for being a chief whip. And I remember as a young political junkie rushing home after school to put on the television so I could watch the Democratic Party and Democratic Alliance working away at the parliamentary farrow. And Douglas certainly stood out always in those engagements as someone who was witty, sharp, intelligent, and who was never, ever short of a retort within the House. When I became the chief whip of the Democratic Alliance, Douglas was the first person I called. And I said to him, Douglas, I've just been appointed as the chief whip of the opposition, and I don't know what to do or how to do the job, and I need some advice. And Douglas, of course, in his usual nimble side, oh, you're going to be marvelous, he said. Absolutely marvelous, a brilliant choice. And then proceeded to spend a number of hours, both in person but also telephonically, guiding me through. Douglas set the benchmark for what a chief whip should be. And it was a mark of his constructiveness, and I think a mark of the fact that he was a true gentleman, who gave me that very sage advice, never fight with Madam Speaker. And I think that his relationship, not only with Dr. Zuma, but also with Baleka Mbete, was legendary, to the point where I believe they still used to take tea occasionally. He said, always respect the Speaker and always have a good relationship. I tried very hard to keep that up. With some speakers, it was easier than with others. But Douglas also was, and you've heard it from so many people here today, an absolute optimist and always ready with some sage advice or some salve for a wound. And I'll never forget how wounded and upset I was when I was made the Mampara of the week as the chief whip of the opposition. And you know, when you open that Sunday Times on a Sunday morning and there your name is in the headline, this Hogarth's Mampara of the Week, it's not a happy moment in politics. And I remember one of the first calls that particular day was from Douglas. And he said, see, they've made you the Mampara of the Week. He says, take heart, my friend. I was made the Mampara of the Week 5 times. I'm happy to tell Douglas I think I've beaten his record. There's also many anecdotes about Douglas's cheery attitude and his can-do and his Churchillian resilience in the face of even the most devastating and darkest times. I'll never forget the story Tony once told me about a particularly stormy caucus meeting that had taken place of the DA caucus. And in leaving that caucus meeting, Tony was, in true Tony style, very exercised about it. And Douglas turned to him and said, now, Tony, we've got to work with the tools God gave us. To which Douglas's retort was, well, God must have been very angry the day he made my caucus. And that was exactly the type of humor that Douglas enjoyed. A man of incredible intellect, a man who knew how to play the ball and not the man, somebody who simultaneously was the chairperson of the Federal Executive, an honorary member of the DA Youth, and an honorary member of the DA Women's Network, all at the same time. A fact that he was very happy and proud to share at every platform that he got. And it was with that deft hand, firm when it needed to be, nurturing when it needed to be, and forthright when it needed to be, that guided not only the parliamentary caucus but our party. Douglas was a creature of politics. He lived, ate, breathed, and slept politics. And his determination and drive to make sure that his party prevailed was something that I always admired him. And, as we've heard, he never lost it. My last interaction with Douglas was on the Wednesday before he passed. I had just had lunch with a very good friend of his from his time as an ambassador in Thailand, Miss MacDonald, who Douglas had dragooned at the time to be the chairman of the South African Thailand Chamber of Commerce. And Douglas had set up the lunch because he felt there was huge opportunities for us to export agricultural products out. His crossing of the swords on Twitter with anybody who dared impugn the integrity or motives of his beloved party, and of course the pieces that he wrote regularly on Politics Web and the Star newspaper, which he would love to share. His advice and time that he took in investing in younger members of the party in terms of offering sage advice, including to our current chief whip, is certainly something that marked him out. While others kick back, tear down, try and suppress, Douglas liked to raise others up to the light as well. And that, for me, is one of his greatest traits. Douglas loved Parliament, and it was evident at the time that he spent here and walked these hallowed halls. And he played a big role in asserting the role of the opposition in a democratic parliament. And as much as those who were speakers and chairpersons of committees played a role in shaping our democratic parliament, Douglas too helped shape what an opposition should look like, what it should do, and how it should go about its business. And many of the traditions and ways in which we do things are still done in the way that Douglas guided. He was the benchmark for a chief whip. But apart from that, he was a good friend. And I think it's a tribute to Douglas today how many of his former colleagues are here. And he was a loyal soldier of the Democratic Party and the Democratic Alliance. And he did not stop working for the party. And we've heard already party agents. He would sit on candidate selection panels. He'd be called in to help mediate disputes between people. When you needed someone to have an uncomfortable truth told to them, Douglas was often turned to as the person who would then be dispatched to go and have that quiet word and advice. And his love for the party continued all the way unto his death. We will miss Douglas, but his contribution here in this house and to our politics will be remembered long after he has gone. And his grandchildren, I hope, will return many times to this place to come and witness the halls where their grandfather set the tone and played his part in building the democracy that we all enjoy today. It's hard at events like this to try and find the words that could truly match the remarkable nature of someone like Douglas Gibson. And as I said at the beginning, and I think Terence said as well, a great tree has fallen. And so in conclusion, I turn to the words of Maya Angelou, whose great poem, When Great Trees Fall, I think is most appropriate. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nature, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be, and be better, for they existed. We are all better because Douglas Gibson existed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. None of this morning would have been possible if it wasn't for the excellent team of staff members at Parliament, and I want to thank them, two of whom are sitting here at the front, but they are running around everywhere, and also the excellent team at Federal Head Office. Helen, thank you very much for the support that you and the team there have given in making this a reality this morning. We are now going to watch a tribute video that was put together with great love and care by our dedicated staff members in honor of Douglas.
On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I'd like to formally extend our deepest condolences to the friends and family of a great South African, Douglas Gibson. Douglas was a consummate politician and public servant, perhaps best remembered in terms of his career as the Chief Whip of the Democratic Party and later the Democratic Alliance in Parliament, and then later as South Africa's ambassador to Thailand. Chief Whip and ambassador are positions that almost describe Douglas perfectly. Douglas was a fierce fighter for freedom in South Africa. Even to the last days of his life, took no prisoners in advocating for what he and our party believed. And yet he brought to all he did an immense capacity for compassion, retaining throughout his career an accessibility and clear humanity in all engagements. At the same time, he was a great ambassador for our country, our party, and the values of non-racialism and freedom. We will miss Douglas dearly. And as we carry on the fight he so long waged for a better South Africa, we will strive to honor his memory and his great efforts throughout his life to make our country a place of real freedom and vibrant opportunity.
Speaker. I'd like everybody present to know, to be the first to hear that I've changed my mind. I hadn't realized how kind my friends were and how they really wanted me to stay. So I'm now seriously reconsidering and staying here for another 16 years. I'm profoundly grateful to the voters and to my party for allowing me to serve them for so many years. I shall miss you all. God bless this house, our country, and all of our people.
I finally want to thank you all again for coming, in particular the Gibson family and our guest speakers. Refreshments will be served in the foyer to my left. Those of you who are traveling back a long distance, please travel back safely. This concludes the formal part of today's proceedings, and I again thank you all very much for coming.
One, one. One, 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 one. Yeah, man. Yeah, still sure, man. One, one, one.
Hi, how are you? Good. Yes. Okay, let me go get my guest. Thanks. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, Tony.
Nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you. My name is Valen. Thank
Hello,
you so much.
Helen. No, it's a great pleasure.
They're just on one reporter. They're going to go to an advert
Sure,
and then they'll come to
Are
us.
we talking about Douglas?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.